Keith here from North 40 Fly Shop. Balance leeches have been making a steady progression as time has gone by. What I'm going to show you is it's actually kind of the marriage of two things, a balance leech and a minnow pattern. If you've ever fished a lot of the still waters or lakes, you'll find that like anything, big fish eat little fish. I've said it time and time again. Omak Lake is a prime example, but I've used the pattern I'm going to show you now in most all the lakes in the area. So what we're going to do is we're going to tie the balance leech minnow, and it's in an olive and white. Okay, let's get started here. We're going to take a size 10 Umpqua U-Series jig hook, 90 degree. Oh, and the numbers on this, all the description of material will be in the deal. So it's a U555, I believe. There we go. And we're going to use 70 denier ultra thread. And we'll get that started there. I'm going to lay in a good thread base. Then we're going to take a 3/4 inch sequence pin and extra small nickel cone head, brass cone head that is, sequence pin, and then where the real weight comes in is a 1/8 metallic red tungsten bead. The nickel itself does not have enough weight to counterbalance the fly, so the tungsten does. So now that you've got it all loaded like that, you've got to figure out your distance to balance this out. So if you were to say the distance between here and the bend of the hook right here, I would probably, what I'm going to do is, what I've done on this is to figure out the balance is I go one full distance of the head. So I'm going to go out about there. So what that is that's taking, oops, there we go, that distance there and putting it behind there, if you understand that. And we're going to strap this down real good. I want to make sure it's centered over the top. Anytime you're using, designing your balance leeches, the first thing you do is exactly what I'm doing. Figure out some distance here where your weighted portion is, so that when this is sitting in the water, it basically sits just like this. And so sometimes there's trial and error. You may tie it on and the head is actually like this when you put a piece of mono in there or some tippet in there to see if it'll bounce. If the head is going up, then you need to take your bead and stuff further out, or you need to actually go a bigger bead. If what you're looking to achieve here is so that's either straight like this or just cocked down just a little bit. And we want to lash this down real good. And I use a 70 denier because I'm going to be putting some stuff into a dubbing loop, and I just like the 70 a little bit better. Now before I go any too much further, I am going to take a little bit of super glue. I'm going to pull that red tungsten bead out, and I'm going to apply some on there, and then I'm going to push that back up underneath, or not underneath, inside that brass cone, and that'll help hold it in place. Then I am going to wrap my thread all the way forward. And you don't have to wrap a bunch of thread here to hold that bead and stuff in place. Once you get going, your material that you're going to wrap forward is going to hold that all into place. So now we're going to take this all the way back. You can use other pins, regular sewing pins or whatever you want to use. You'll have to clip them. You just want to make sure there's a big enough head that'll hold the bead in place, or your brass cone in place. The thing you got to watch out for, and this is why I like the sequence pins, is that it has a natural point here and it won't cut your thread. So the other thing I do is I apply a little super glue to my thread wraps, and just it'll soak down in there. Just give it a little more strength there to hold it in place. Now normally if I was tying up a number of these, you know, half a dozen, a dozen, I'd whip finish this off real quick, set this off the side so that glue can dry, but since we're not going to be doing that, we're going to just keep plugging away. So next thing is the tail. And I'm using olive woolly bugger marabou. If you've seen any of my other videos, anytime I'm tying smaller stuff, I like to use that woolly bugger marabou a little bit more than anything else. The other thing too is I just kind of find where the tip of the feather is, and I pull that out. It just lays down better, I think. And what we're looking for is we want to go, the tail needs to be the hook length, so that's going to be not the overall length of this, but the hook length from here to here. And that's about right there. And what I'll do is I'll kind of get rid of some of this extra stuff here. So I'll lash that down real good. What this will do is it'll fill in some of the space that your sequence pin leaves between where it ends and the bend of your hook is. Because I want that to be kind of a smooth transition as much as possible, because when we get going here we're going to be wrapping an underbody here. So let me get that wrapped down as tight as we can. Just remember you're only using 70 denier, so you can't wrap it too tight. The next part of the tail, which is going to be the belly, is I just use cross-cut rabbit strips in white, and I'm just going to take just a little bit like that. And the reason why is if I put marabou under there, it gives it a little bit too much weight, and for some reason just this little bit of rabbit kind of helps balance out the whole fly. So just like that. So there's part of your belly will extend underneath your tail. So the next thing is we are going to put in a dubbing loop. Now if you want to, you can put a couple of strips of flash in the tail, and if you are, pearl flashabou, pearl crinkle flash or mirror crinkle flash, or what I've been using more and more now is the pearl UV flashabou. It just adds a little bit better to it, but in this pattern I didn't use any. And so for the underbody, same thing is you can use pearl flashabou, pearl mirror crinkle flash, or you can use pearl tinsel, and that's what I've got a spool of here, is a pearl flat tinsel. So we're going to tie that in. And this is going to be the underbody. This is going to add a little flash to what's underneath. And I got just a little bit of a bump there, but that's alright. The other thing too is when you're wrapping this on the underbody material, the tinsel, you do not have to worry about it being perfect, because it's just going to be something underneath that adds to a little bit of that flash that minnows show through. And if you're using Flashaboo, you could add, you know, you could use one strand, or you can use 2 or 3 just to fill it up more. Like I said, you don't have to be exact here. You want to wrap them as close to each other as you can, a little overlapping. But if you miss it a little bit here and there, that's okay. And I'll go back a little bit just to kind of use up some of the tinsel, and also to add a little bit bulk up there on the front. There we go. 2 behind, 3 behind, a couple in front. There we go. Okay, so for your dubbing, which is your body, I use 2 types of semi-seal. One is the silver minnow color, and the other is the crystal. And I mix them together, and I use a coffee blender, and then once I come up with it, I put it into its own bag. And usually if I'm going to be doing a lot of it, it's 2 equal parts, and then I mark the outside of the bag so I know exactly what it is. I just found that those 2 colors seem to work better than just one color versus the other, so I blended them together. Alright, we load up our dubbing loop, and give that thing a twist. And we're going to brush it out a little bit. We're going to go 1 full, maybe 1.5. Actually, it's about 2 in the back. And in order to keep that tinsel to shine through, we're going to space this out probably a 1/4 inch, well, maybe not quite a 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch or so, and wrap that thing forward. We're just going to kind of spiral that forward. That should bring us right to where the hook meets the overhang. Come around, continue on until we get up right behind the front bead, and then we're going to do a couple good turns there, and we'll tie that off, secure it. 2 behind, 1 in front, 2 behind, 1 in front. Clip off that excess. Throw in a couple of wraps for good measure. And then I'm going to come back, before I go any further on this particular design, I want to get that brushed out a little bit. And you can see how that pearl tinsel shines through. It gives that body a lot more shine to it. Okay, last item that we're going to be tying in is Sinuous Fusion Dub in Emerald, which is kind of an olive color. So we need a dubbing loop. Let's see, get this squared away here. And we're not going to need a lot, because this is just going to be, whoops, might want to turn that the way we want it, because what we're going to tie this in for, I got a little ahead of myself, not going to need a lot, because what I want to do, I want this to come over to match the tail, and this is the back. Put a dubbing loop there. Lock that in. And what you want to do here is kind of get an idea of where in that dubbing loop, when you make that first wrap, going to put this right on top. Oops. There we go. So it's right about where I want it, right there. And the next thing is I'm going to add just a little bit behind it, just to kind of add a little bit underneath. And with that, I am going to take a little bit, cut it in half, because I don't want it as long. And we're going to spin this up a little bit just to kind of lock everything in. Just that over. Should come in right about there, like that. A couple of wraps over. And then we'll tie that off. Trim off the excess. Clean it up a little bit. And super glue to the thread. About 4 turns for a whip finish. And then we're going to take and brush that back a little bit, both sides. Give that olive back look. Might not look exactly like a minnow compared to what we know, but it seems to work pretty good. I haven't had too many complaints about it. Always good to, I've always said, it's always good to have a little red. The red bead is kind of gives that gill look up front. So run these under an indicator. You can run it straight and cast it. If you're going to fish the river, cast out, let her swing. If you're going to run it under the indicator, shallow water, you know, depending on where you think or where you're seeing minnow action. Also, like I said, you don't have to run it, even if you're in a lake, you don't have to run it under an indicator. You can cast out and jig it back. That up and down movement puts a lot of action into it. There you go. That's your balanced minnow leech.